that is really of really strong interest to me. And it's about how do we raise kind and empathetic children in the very cruel world in which we live in. And I had a few pointers. This is like the first time that I'm doing a live on my own. So thank you very much for your encouragements. I see the hearts and I'm really, really grateful. But I still just wanted to just have some type of a discussion with you about how do we do this? There's so many things. Like this morning, I opened up my newspaper app, and again, there was many stories about cruelty, about bullying, and I often ask myself the question. I raised my children to be kind, and maybe I'm old fashioned, but where I come from and how I grew up, it's very simple. It's a simple message. We need to do unto others as we would like them to do unto us. So I've raised my children to be kind, to be respectful, respectful of their elders, respectful of their friends, respectful of different people. And this has been my life's work, making sure that my children were raised the way that I was raised. Well, what I'm seeing in the world today, I ask myself this question and I wonder, haven't I raised my children to be too nice? Or are they going to make it in a world where cruelty and bullying and showing strength and power over others is the way things currently are? So I don't know if all of you on the call, I don't know if you have some questions, some suggestions, because I really have been sitting with these thoughts over the last few, I would say, for quite a while, and wondering, should I pivot? My kids are a little older now. Should I tell them this is the way I raised you? But the world is a very cruel place. And so you need to sort of be a little bit tougher. I'll never tell my kids to bully other people. I just don't think I have that within me. But it's how do they navigate this world? How do they navigate the way the world has become? And yes, of course, that's the type of work that I am really very much involved in right now. So let me just take a few things, look at a few situations. So I'm going to take it back a little bit to when I was around 9 years old. And of course, my grandmother and mother had raised me to be this very nice child. And I'd go into school and I'd get bullied. I'd get regularly bullied. I couldn't sleep at night before going to school. When I got to school, lunchtime was one of the times when I was bullied the most. So I'd make sure that I hid during lunchtime so I wouldn't get bullied. And at the end of class, the first thing I did was I would take my stuff and I would just run out the door and I would just run home. I used to live 15 minutes from home and I just used to run, run, run. Like I actually made it to the track team because I ran so fast, because I just needed to make sure I wasn't intercepted by anybody and just made sure I got home to the safety of my home. So the bullying went on for several years. And at one point, I realized, this bullying would continue if I didn't defend myself. So my mother signed me up for judo classes, which I really took very eagerly to. And in judo, there's several moves they seem impressive, but you can actually throw someone over quite fast and quite effectively in judo. So my mother sort of thought of this as self-defense because we were young girls and she wanted to make sure we could protect ourselves, defend ourselves. And so I started these judo classes. And of course, after about 2 classes, I was actually able to just throw someone over my shoulder. And it seemed pretty impressive. I think looking at, throwing someone over the shoulders is actually quite an interesting thing. But with judo, what you do is that you actually take the weight of your adversary and you take that weight and you use it against them. So I'll never forget. I think I was in the hallways one afternoon and her name was Vanya. I'll never forget her name, Vanya. And Vanya just used to be this very, very aggressive girl who just bullied me for the fun of it. And she knew how terrified I was. So she'd come over, make fun, poke fun, pull on my braids, laugh it out, and call me all these names, call me the N-word and what have you. So what I did at one point is when she started bullying me, I could really feel that I was getting so aggravated by it. I just basically did this judo move, osotogari, and threw her over my shoulder, and she fell on the floor. And I'll never forget the look on her face at that specific moment in time. She was just so surprised. She found herself like on her bum on the floor, and she looked at me and said, "But why did you do that? Like, why did you do that?" And I said, "Well, you have been bullying me for years and years." And I said, "And I'm going to stand up for myself. I'm going to take a stance. And from that day onwards, Vanya never bullied me. Actually, when we graduated, she came up to me and apologized for her awful behavior over so many years. So I earned that respect. The thing is, growing up, raising my children, you know, I have, I do tell them to defend themselves, but I don't want my children to be constant bullies. I don't want my kids to have to show violence or force to get what they want. I think we live in a world where we're supposed to be able to have discussions. We're supposed to be able to comport ourselves in a mature way. And the simple fact that we live in this world where I feel now we're all in survival mode, we're all sort of trying to defend ourselves. Oh, Marlon, I see you on the call. You were supposed to be on this call with me. um, so what I'm going to do, folks, is I am going to try and bring Marlon on board. So I'm going to try and invite him in. So I'm just inviting him, and let's see if he can join, because then that would just be perfect so that we can have this conversation. Just a second. I see his great. There you are.
Technical difficulties.
No worries. No worries. Oh, I'm so happy to see you. I'm very
Same. We've been
great.
trying to do this for a minute, huh?
Yeah, I know. So, like I had just started talking about, like how do we
Oh
raise?
no, you were really I can identify, believe me. I
Yeah.
yeah, oh I had everything. Skinny asthmatic kid with glasses. I mean,
Oh, wow.
what could be worse, right?
Yeah.
And I in junior high school, I we moved to a new town. And so
Hmm.
then on top of all the other stuff, I'm the new kid, so I didn't know anybody.
Okay.
And uh, I actually had two different guys. That one was at school, and then the other one was a guy in my neighborhood that kind of ran everything.
Okay.
He would
Uh-huh.
he would pick what games everybody played and who was on what team and all this kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, um, yeah. I did not know judo,
Yeah.
so my defense was um I just had like the gift of gab, and I could just cut guys up with, and that was all I had. So so I would just I could verbally undress somebody. I mean,
Yeah.
just really, and they would back down just because of the embarrassment.
Okay.
But it's funny when you think back on it, because I grew up in like the 60s, and it's like the nonviolent era.
Yeah.
So my parents didn't want me to have, we didn't get guns for Christmas, and we
Yeah.
weren't supposed to fight and all that stuff. But, sooner or later you have to figure out what your weapon's going to be.
Yeah, exactly. And so the premise, what I'd started talking about is how do you raise, because I've raised my kids, like I'm sure it means to be empathetic.
Yeah.
Um, well, to be nice.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
World that we live in today, I sometimes wonder, was I right to do that? You know, I have had times when I've been bullied in front of my kids where I have stood up for myself. So, and I
Hmm.
have, I'm not gonna have somebody bully me and get away with it. So I have stood up, but I look at them now sort of approaching the workforce, and I see some of the practices, some of the stuff people do to get jobs these days, and some of it is not nice. So some of it is not nice.
It's different, and I feel you just have to feel for, you know, Gen X and Gen Z coming along now, because the bullying isn't always in person. It's social media, it's, emails and text messages and all that kind of stuff. And so you they just have to have a different set of tools, I think, than we
Exactly.
than we did. We just did, it was somebody in your face, and you had to deal with it. But you know
Oh, you just cut out. I can't hear you. I don't know what's going on.
oh,
Okay.
it's something, I'm in my rush. Um I didn't do somebody's calling me from somewhere. I need to fix my settings so I won't
Uh-huh.
be getting phone calls. But yeah, I just think that uh you know I couldn't imagine if guys that I had to deal with were also texting me.
Uh,
you know,
right. Yeah.
huh.
Yeah. I mentioned just now when I sort of like I used to leave school every day and I just run out the door and I would just keep on running until I got home because
Mm,
Christ, at the end of that was my safe spot was home. And so I can't imagine today with social media, which really gets to your home, that would have just been such a horrible environment for me to see my home as a place where people could continue to bully and to abuse and to harass. So you're right. I mean, kids today need to have a different set of tools. Um, as a parent, I know your daughter's my sort of son's age, so you don't have
right.
kids, but I do see some of my friends with very young kids, and some of them sort of like let their kids spend days in front of the iPad or the computer. And I
Yeah.
parents out there now that say no, we're not going to give our kids access to open
It's
access.
tough. I mean, when our daughter, especially our daughter, when she was maybe 10 or 11,
Yeah.
we got her an iPad because she was so creative,
Uh,
and we wanted, and I remember, um, just around that time when she was maybe 11 or 12, she got into it actually with some of her cousins.
okay.
And boy, they just really, I mean, she was, devastated that some of the stuff they were saying. And, she brought it to us and, this is family too. So how do you even handle that? Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've had occasion to just regret making that stuff so that technology so accessible. I mean,
Uh,
our son is now, um you know he's majoring in computer engineering, so he's taking it to the next level. But
uh,
one of the things that we have difficulty with him, it's not so much bullying but just being so attached
okay.
to the
Mm,
screen.
yeah.
And I mean, when he comes home, he'll just sit in his room
Okay.
on his laptop, and you're just going, how do we make this guy be more social
Mm,
physically, right?
yeah.
And I think a lot of that, COVID didn't help.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
he went through, I guess, middle school into high school during
Mm,
COVID.
okay.
So he didn't his friends are he all these are all people online, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, most of them he knows, but a lot of them he's never seen before
Hmm.
physically. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a whole different dynamic. And I'm not sure. I'm glad my kids are older,
Yeah.
because I don't even know what we would do if we had like an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old now.
Yeah. So it was really interesting during COVID. And this was sort of my niece went through a pretty tough time during COVID, where all classes were sort of online,
Yeah.
and experienced a lot of it was racial bullying.
Mm,
In her class. And I guess the kid in her class didn't realize that the school had this technology where they could tell exactly who was bullying and sending in these racist comments. And that was yeah, that was really tough during COVID, the whole isolation thing. and
yeah.
and I guess it was just also this point where her dad realized, that his mixed race daughter was a victim of racism, and he could actually see the text. He could see the
Mm,
text in the online classroom. But your point about kids I see a lot of my nephews right now. They play these video games. Where it's basically they're in this network of kids playing these video games. They don't even know each other. Some of them don't even know each other, and they sort of like they're always in front of the screen. And sometimes
yeah.
yourself, don't you want to just go out and see these people? Like, don't you want to see the human being in sort of three dimensions, per se? And he sort of looks at me and says, well, you're a boomer. That is up to
Yeah,
that.
I know, because we came up in the era of go outside and play.
Yeah,
Get
exactly.
outside, and I mean, they just don't do that. Like, for example, the whole idea of play dates.
Yeah.
We didn't have play dates. You just went out and you, like,
Ex
found people to be friends with. They don't
Yeah.
know how to do that. They just it's not the way it's done, right? Even,
Yeah.
dating, all that stuff. It's all online. It's all and, I'm a boomer too. I'm,
Yeah.
sort of on the back end of being a boomer.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I think about how and this isn't so much bullying, but I don't know how we even like played. I mean, you would
Yeah.
I'm gonna meet you at the bowling alley and you just hope the person would be there. It wasn't like you could text them or see if they're on their way or any of that, right? And
Exactly.
so I kind of laugh about it, man. I mean, I've lived in North Carolina now for, I guess, a little over 10 years, almost
Yeah.
15.
Yeah.
I still use GPS almost everywhere I go. If I leave town, I just have the GPS going just in case, We
Mhm.
think about it. We didn't have any of that.
Yeah. But it's interesting because I remember sort of like 5 siblings, and we had these elaborate, when we had these games, when we played with these, we had these elaborate things going on. So we would start in the morning and say, such and such is gonna have a really big, sort of like a big event, like a big party. And so we should all get
Okay.
halls, and we'd put all these people in situ. We'd have act, we'd basically create a narrative and a storyboard, and we'd spend the whole day planning what are we going to wear to go to this ball, what are we going to do at the ball, and it was just, I think, the imagination of kids. We would basically create a whole story, and the summer holidays were just the best because the thing would just be going on like a Bridgerton thing for literally weeks and weeks of like, we're going to be doing this and these, and we had these people that had stories, they had, and so, and I think that imagination, one of the reasons,
You were so much more sophisticated than we were. We were
yeah,
making guns out of sticks.
oh,
we we're playing cowboys and Indians, and that's pretty much it. And
yeah,
we would replicate I don't know, different TV shows that were on or whatever. And, I'm going to be, okay, I'm the sheriff this time and you're going to be the crook. you know, I mean, but we did not have in, I mean, I think about like these guys got video games and all this stuff. And I enjoy, playing video games. I was an early adopter. I got like Nintendo for
yeah,
my kids, right? But I was playing it as much as they were, Mario and all that stuff. And I
yeah,
play a lot of games on my phone now, but we didn't have you just had to use your imagination, right?
exactly,
You
and
just
then
had to make it up. And I mean, so we would play Star Trek and there
yeah,
was like a fallen tree in a field not far from my house. And that
yeah,
was our spaceship. We'd get on this tree and it's like pathetic looking back, but we
I
just didn't have anything else, right?
I don't think it is fallen because I think the ability to create and to imagine really helps develop the brain. I think it's just
Yeah.
fundamental we are today, having that ability to imagine something, to create something in your mind. I mean, that tree, I mean, imagine all the fun that you had. Just,
Oh, we really did some stuff that was borderline dangerous. I mean, so I lived in this at the time, at the time it was the second largest city in Arkansas, which ain't saying a whole lot,
yeah.
um, but our house was, I mean, it was really pretty close to downtown.
Mm,
However, it's Arkansas, right? And there was a train track that ran down the middle of the street,
mm,
just like in a lot of sort of
mm,
rural towns, right? And a lot of times the train would stop for some reason.
okay.
And now they've rerouted the trains and all that stuff. But back we're talking about maybe in the early to mid 70s,
Mhm,
the, the trains would stop and the box cars, a lot of them would be empty. And I
yeah,
don't know, I guess the traffic was backed up and the train might sit there for an hour. We'd be
mm,
all on those trains playing, climbing, climbing on boxcar. I mean, dangerous stuff, right? But
yeah.
you know, I guess God looked out for us. We
I
we
so
just got away with it.
yeah, as the second, I mean, my late older brother, I always just wanted to do everything he did. So he was just this model.
See, I'm
I
the oldest, so I was
Yeah,
the ringleader, the one that
yeah.
got whipped.
My brother used to climb trees, and we used to climb these trees. That was dangerous stuff as well. Like, we would climb these trees and sometimes get all the way up to the top and then realize, "Oh my gosh, how do we come down?" And we do this all the time. Like, I am surprised I'm still here in front of you today because that this was
I
just a
understand.
crazy activity that we would do. We'd get lost. I mean, it was some of the stuff that we did. I think once, my brother said, "Let's go on an adventure." We went
Uh-oh.
and it was getting hot. I started to cry. I was thirsty. I wanted to go home. And he started trying to convince me. He says, "Don't be a crybaby." And I was like, something's gonna happen to us out here. And by the time we got home, my mom had sent out a rescue mission because we'd been gone for like 4 hours.
Oh,
But it was something that really connected my brother and I for the rest of at least the time he had left on Earth, because we became very close after that adventure. Because I knew that he would protect me and that he would, because he did carry me in the end. Because I was just so
mm.
disappointed. Did
I
take
never
care.
did anything quite that adventurous, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's so weird because I would ride my bike all over town. And my
Mm.
parents, there's no way they would know where I was. It was just like, be home by 10, and you just riding all over the place. And I mean, it's not like she could track me. And
Mm.
I mean, I have three younger brothers, and we just sort of were on our own. Just, I would never let my kids do that. I mean, you just can't do it now. I
Yeah,
mean,
you
but
can't.
we were never in any kind of danger, and it's not like we were doing anything wrong. We were just visiting our friends, and we'd ride 2 or 3 miles across town to see, one guy, and then maybe he goes with us and we all go to the other side of town.
Yeah.
And you just, but it's a country town. It's like at that time, it wasn't like, nobody's trying to kidnap us or anything like that. So it's all very different now.
It's very different. So, coming back to my original question about, how do we raise our kids to be good, people in a world that's not necessarily always good and fair.
Mm.
Look, what are some of the techniques, some of the ideas that you might have? So we can be talking about our grandkids
Mm.
too.
Yeah,
Like,
well, I try. I'll tell you what my wife and I have tried to do is lead by example. I
uh,
think that's the best. You can tell kids don't do that, but if they see you doing it, if
exactly.
they see how you interact with other people, and
Uh,
it's not cool, right? Then how do you? And I think that's something that a lot of this bullying. Well, where do they learn it from? They probably learn it at home. Just like, it's like racism. It's like kids
uh,
aren't born knowing how to say the N word. They got to get it from somewhere, right?
yeah.
And so
Well, Marla,
I mean,
uh,
that's kind of
they're
what we've tried to do.
yeah, they're learning it at home, but now they're also learning it when they watch TV.
Oh
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
since they've been learning it from somewhere else as well. But yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
No, it's I mean, I say that we've been lucky because neither of our kids ever had any trouble in school. They were all decent students. They did not get that from me, not inherently, because I've written about my shortcomings as a student. But um, we really tried to. I mean, not just overdo it, but um, just teach them how to be civilized human beings. I don't know if it's that hard. I mean, if you really think about it, it shouldn't be.
Mm,
And it's so far. I mean, nobody's gotten arrested. Nobody's done even at school. I mean, never any run-ins with authority or any of that kind of stuff. So I guess for us anyway, that was the formula. Just demand a little bit of excellence and just let them know, look, I
mm.
don't expect you to be the smartest kid. I just want you to try as hard as you can.
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, that was our little formula, and so far it's worked.
Yeah. Someone just on the live just said, books and museums, which,
Mm,
I learned a lot about, my values and my ethics also through books,
yeah.
I read about that I thought were good people. And so that really helped me a lot. But then of course, my mother and my grandmother also led by example. My grandmother was very much an integrity, and just kept us, on that path of integrity, to the point that, today, that's the same thing I tell my kids, integrity for me is one of the most important characteristics that any human being can have, and just having that integrity and telling the truth. And today, my
Pardon me.
world, you okay?
Oh yeah,
You okay?
yeah. I'm good. It's it's kind of weird, depending on what part of the country you're in. We've got some kind of, I don't know if it's ragweed or what it is, and but it's really nice weather, so windows are up and the doors are open, so you just kind of deal with it.
Like year-round hay fever situation.
Yeah, yeah, it's worth it though. It's worth it.
Okay.
You're just talking about integrity, and I was just thinking about this one occasion, and I guess it was my son, and he lied to us about something to do with school, like
Yeah.
some homework he hadn't done. I can't remember exactly what. It's the only time I can really remember, um, just really like catching one of them just lying,
Yeah.
and we didn't really, unlike my parents, we did not do corporal punishment.
Okay.
So, but he felt so bad about it that
Uh-huh.
that was the punishment. Because we didn't. It wasn't like a shouting, screaming kind of thing. It was really just like, dude, we're kind of disappointed because you
Yeah.
haven't really done anything like this. What's
Mhm.
going on, right?
Yeah.
And man, you could tell it was worse than any spanking or whipping you could have given him, right?
Yeah.
And that, I mean, so yeah. But other than that, it's really kind of funny because our son, like I said, he's a sophomore in college now, and
Uh-huh.
we call this guy up, and it'll be Saturday, right, in the evening. Well, what are you doing? I'm working on physics, and I'm like, whoo, it's not my kid, because I would be out there somewhere. I mean, he's just a diligent student, and so you can tell I'm kind of proud of him.
I can tell. I can tell. It's interesting that you shared this because my daughter is studying vet medicine, and same thing. I'll call her on Saturday, and she's like, I'm studying, mom," and I'm like, "What?
Yeah.
You want to go out?" And she's like, "No, I'm studying." And there's a structure. They have this structure. She's like, "I'm studying now. We're all studying now." She's like, "We go out, but we just, we know when we're going to go out. We're not out every day." She's like, "We're here, and our parents are paying for us to come to university, so we respect that sacrifice, and we go out, we have fun, but then there's a time to study." And I was like, "Wow!" I'm just blown away. I keep on telling people it.
Listen, well, my son has a different motivation. He got a 4-year scholarship to
Okay,
to school, and so
relation.
with that comes with some expectations, right? And it's not over the top, but he's got to have a certain grade point average, and
Yeah.
he's just the kind of guy that you tell him what the assignment is, and he's just going to be on it. And so
Uh-huh.
there's some of that too. But I think it's like you said, it's I think they learn it at home. That's the first step, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, it's but I have to tell you, I was not that kind of student. Yeah, I was. If you called me on Saturday, first of all, there were no cell phones, so nobody would answer the phone in my room because I wouldn't be there.
Yeah, it's that's really interesting. I think the discipline that our kids have, it's as you were saying, the examples that we set for them,
Mhm.
and that's why I sort of like I was just talking about truth just before, the whole thing around truth and how truth has become basically, yeah,
Fungible.
exactly,
Yeah, it's optional now. I mean, That's to me,
Uh-huh.
just sort of where we are right now as a country, probably the part that just sets me off the most
Yeah.
is the
Mm,
lying. I
yeah,
just can't even. I mean, you look at guys like, let's just take Mike Johnson, the speaker, as an example. This guy
goodness.
lies with such ease.
I
It just blows me away that this
yeah,
guy will sit on the and to be the speaker. So what? He's third in line or second in line to the presidency. He
yeah,
doesn't see a lot. You talk to him about something. I haven't seen that. I don't know anything about that. And it's
yeah,
just, dude, you're lying. We know you're lying to us. And I
exactly.
just have a real problem with that. It
Yeah.
runs, yeah, it runs my blood pressure up.
I totally agree. I have, I was actually this thing about social justice, this thing about truth. This is really something that is so important to me in my life. It actually runs through every of my life. Truth in all things. Just tell the truth. And I've said it to my kids at times. I sort of said, just tell me the truth. And so I'm sort of known in my family as this sort of social justice sort of warrior, always looking for
Somebody called me that one time, and I didn't realize I was supposed to be insulted.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
is this like a pejorative? Really?
yeah.
Why
But I'm
wouldn't
just
you
like,
want to be a social justice warrior?
yeah. But the okay, so yes, I've sort of been told about this. So this thing about truth. You're right. When I look at Mike Johnson or I look at the president, you know,
Oh
and
boy.
all issue. And then of course now this is all conflated with the Epstein files, which I just think is in total and utter scandal that, we're sitting here protecting some of the most vile human beings that this world probably have ever set foot on this planet. So yes, I go on looking for the truth. I think it's so important. I admire journalists that are always in the pursuit of truth. People think that says a lot about somebody to be in the pursuit of truth. It's easy to lie. I mean, but why do people lie? It's basically they lie for their self-interest. Why does Mike Johnson, you know, he lies just because he's trying to protect himself, or he's trying to basically suck up to the president and some other people in the GOP. So I mean, lying for me, it just runs to the complete opposite of who I am and who I represent. And I think I'll always be lying. I think that's the only chance, or the only I mean, that's the only hope that I have for the human race. Because if we continue with optional truth, I just don't know where this is going to end.
The thing that is, I guess the reason I use Mike Johnson as an example
Huh?
is because at the same time, every time you look up, the Bible is coming out of his mouth and how
Exactly.
Christian he is and
Yeah.
all of this stuff. And it's just like, this is why people do not go to church. I mean, when you have a guy that's supposed to be so godly and God fearing and all of this, and I just, I just can't. It's too much.
But isn't it the case of the entire GOP? Basically, they instrumentalize Christianity and want people to think that they're good people, but they run to the complete opposite of any of the values in the Bible. And so
It's a
they,
phenomenon.
yeah,
Somebody's going to study this at some, or maybe they already are, but this
it's
and I'm
called,
gonna say white Christian nationalism because
yeah,
that's where it seems to sort of
huh,
emanate from. I'm not saying that other groups aren't doing stuff too, but just that whole phenomenon that, I posted a video yesterday uh,
uh-huh,
about just sort of the whole uh, imagery around this Charlie Kirk situation.
yeah, yeah,
And it's just so wrapped in fascism and white nationalism, all these different things. And it's freaking scary when
it
you
is.
just kind of step back and look at it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know what kind of spell that they are able to put on people that have to see the lying that's going on. They have to see it, and they rationalize, well, Democrats are worse, or black folks do it too, or something, and it just scares the crap out of you.
It's very scary, and I think what scares me the most in all of this is we're not. It's things aren't going to come get back to the normal that you and I know. It
Mm.
went back to that place.
It
I
may
think,
not, well, it may, but I doubt I live to see it because
yeah,
this
I don't.
isn't something you just turn around in a couple of years.
Yeah, I know. I've decided that I have to grieve that world that I used to know. I really do, because at
Mhm.
this just with the oligarchs and the tech billionaires and all of that, all these people coming together, this perfect storm of uninformed and disinformed and misinformed. How do you put that back in a box? This is like a Pandora's box that we've opened. And now AI is sort of becoming a part of this whole thing. So who is inventing these messages? Who's creating this division? I don't think I don't think human beings have, I mean, and this might be seem pretty dark and pessimistic, but I do not think that we can bring things back. It's it's out of hand,
You're
completely
not
out.
going to get an argument from me because I think this is years in the making.
Uh-huh.
I mean, like 50 years in the making.
Uh,
You have to think about systematically making our schools where they don't really teach our kids anything.
yeah, exactly. Uh-huh.
Defunding public schools. And
Yeah.
then you think about, all that money that should have been going to public schools. Now, where's it going? It's going to private religious schools and this sort of thing. And
Uh,
so now what we've got is a whole generation or two,
mm,
maybe, of
yeah.
people with a fifth grade reading level.
Yeah.
And they don't have the critical skills un, to dissemble all this crap. And
Yeah.
so I'll tell you what, we were talking about COVID a minute ago.
Uh,
Um, in a weird way, and my wife and I talked about this, is really weird. It was
yeah.
actually good in the sense that essentially we homeschooled our kids for 2 years. And
Uh,
so, not that I enjoyed that, but,
yeah.
they were doing all this online stuff.
Uh,
And we got to see what they were being taught and
mm,
how they were being taught.
totally did.
And so I just decided, you know what? I'm going to be the teacher. And so what happened and what got me sort of, so my daughter was studying something and I don't remember what class it was. And
Uh,
the school hired these outside vendors that do these educational modules and all this stuff.
yeah.
And she was trying to figure out something, and it was one of these things where you have to use source material, and they provide a list of sources you can use to articulate whatever it was. And I
Yeah.
looked, and one of the sources that was
Mm.
available was the freaking Heritage Foundation.
Oh my
And I
goodness.
said, "Oh no, 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 we're not doing that."
Uh,
And I was calling the school like,
oh,
what is going on here?"
yeah.
And, nobody could really give me a satisfactory explanation. But that's when I was like, okay, I got to step in here. And
Yeah.
I didn't mind doing it because, uh, I didn't do that kind of stuff when I was actually in high school. but,
Yeah.
I was at least able to just help them determine what's good information versus what's not great information. And so
Mm,
I said, let's take a look at the Heritage Foundation. And we did. And I said, this is kind of what they're all about. You tell me what you think about this. And
yes.
I mean, but that just really set off an alarm with me. And it wasn't the first time. I mean, there were definitely teachers that were bringing their politics to school. I mean,
Yeah.
literally putting stuff in tests like Hillary lost because fill in the blank. And it's like, why are we talking about Hillary Clinton? Just really strange stuff. My daughter had a Spanish teacher who's
Mhm.
since been, fired for other reasons. Um, and she was talking about the caravan in Spanish class. And it's like, what is
Oh,
happening here where that
yeah,
is like, but this, if it's happening at one school, it's happening all over the place, right? And so
exactly.
I just think you almost have to deprogram people of
Yeah,
these things that they think they know that are just simply not even factual.
exactly. Or, as my son would say, people get stuck in the algorithms.
Mm,
So they hear something reinforced and reinforced and reinforced in different ways. And they begin to think that that thing is truth, and it could just be completely, and so that, it could be a completely misinformation or anything. And so then you get people that start rewriting history and
mm,
stuff,
mm.
and it's just, it's a really scary thought. So there's no big plug where we're going to just pull out the plug and let all of this stop.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, it's not just I have two sons that are in their 30s from my first marriage. And one of them, man, this is several years ago, but we really had a blow up because this guy was convinced the earth was flat. And
You
he's
Oh,
getting it off of social media. He's getting it
oh
off of
my,
YouTube. And he's like, well,
well,
you need to look at this. And I did not have a lot of patience with him over this
yeah,
because I'm like, dude, so okay, explain this. If the earth is, and and it's all this stuff that there's no answer. It doesn't work. You can't have, for example, and I let this go. This is recent, but it was kind of hard because he travels the country. He does a lot of he's in the construction industry, so he does a lot of welding and sheetrock and all this stuff, and he does a lot of work for the government. So
yeah,
he's in Alaska several months ago, and he sends me some photos, just beautiful aurora borealis, stuff,
wow,
and I'm like, I don't know if he knows this, but that doesn't work if the Earth is flat. It only works with a round planet, right?
ex-
But I didn't throw it in his face, and I think he's kind of, it's one of those things where with time he realized, okay, I'm probably not right about this.
yeah,
But yeah, it's kind of almost more funny now. But it just shows, like you said, how easy it is where you go down that rabbit hole because the algorithm, you get one conspiracy theorist and you watch it, well, it's just going to keep throwing crazy
no,
stuff at you. It's what
exactly.
they do.
I think I had one point. There was one point for me which was concerning. So I come from a family where, generations of women have
Mm,
had food on the table for several reasons. Unfortunately, the men didn't survive, or so
mm,
like who had to work as a teacher, and my mother who also had to work to put food on the table to feed us. So it's been a very matriarchal type of family. So my son, I think he was about 14 or so. So he sort of comes home and, he's listened to these Andrew Tate videos.
okay.
And I was like,
Say no more.
yeah. And this went on for about a year or so. And he started telling me all the Andrew Tate formulas and stuff about women. And I said, look around you, look at your life. I said, what have women? I said, you wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for this whole lineage of women that have always sort of just been there to provide. So I said, you can't look at Andrew Tate. You can't look at Andrew Tate's messages on women and believe that to be as messages that women are, you know, sort of inferior, and women can't, all these really sexist, toxic,
Yeah,
and I was really, really concerned for a bit because, it was my son and he's friends, and it was crazy because what they were listening to wasn't even reflected in our reality. And luckily, he sort of snapped out of it. But there was a point in time where we were having I mean, full blowouts because I was just like,
I understand.
I'm not going to tolerate that because I am so grateful to be here because my mother, fed me. So, but now things are better. And the other day he said to me, he's like, Mom, he says, I just like working with women. They just have their act together. He's doing his master's, his MBA, and he was talking about how they had to be in group projects. And he's like, I immediately went to the group where they had like the most women because I know that we're gonna work hard and we're gonna deliver. And I sort of said to him, oh, very interesting. I said, I'm so happy that you've changed your mind. But he said, yes, of
Mm,
course. years ago. But just to say that, yeah, the algorithm can take you hostage. That's my words. It can take you hostage, and then you basically find yourself believing everything that it says, and
Mhm.
you're in a Stockholm syndrome type situation where you just fall in love with the algorithm, even if they are actually abusing and maltreating you by giving you fake information.
I saw someone in the chat made the comment that we would be better off if social media wasn't invented, and I kind of have a thought about that.
Mm.
It, I don't think you can blame the technology.
Mhm. Yep.
Okay, it's sort of like if you think about guns, well, the guns aren't killing people, it's the people using the guns that are committing the crime. And so I well, look at this conversation we're having now. If not, I mean, Notes is essentially social media. I
Yep.
mean, I left Twitter to come to Notes when Elon Musk bought Twitter. So
Mhm.
Twitter wasn't the problem for me.
Yeah.
Elon Musk was the problem. And I
Yeah.
think, yeah, it's like Robin is saying, it's anything can be harmful if you don't regulate it.
Mm.
And, the people who we've depended on to put in safeguards, right?
Yep.
And, like they have done with television, pretty much,
Yeah.
just sort of let it go with
Yep.
social media. Because, why in the world is it that you can't really, well, Fox News aside, you
Yeah.
can't just really, um, traffic in misinformation on network television.
Yeah.
Cable television is a lot more loosely regulated. And then the next step maybe is social media, which is just the Wild West. I mean, we can get on here right now and
Mhm.
every single thing we say can be false. And
Yeah.
there's no real
Guard.
accountability for it,
Yeah.
right? And that's to me the problem. It's not really the mechanism. I mean, we've always had
Uh,
misinformation. It used to
yeah.
be newsletters way back in the day, right?
Uh,
But now, of course, social media makes it where it's global. For
yeah.
all we know, somebody's going to see this conversation in Bangladesh or somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
I actually, you look at your followers or your subscribers, and I'm kind of geeky that way, and I get in there because I want to know, well, who's subscribing to my newsletter? And they're people from parts of the world I never would have thought, right? I got a
Mhm.
lot of Canadian subscribers, which makes me feel kind of good. But just I'll tell you what. One day I told my wife, I said, I'm starting to get a lot of Canadian followers, and she said, "Well, you better make friends with them because we might need to we might need to go see them." So so
I
yeah, it's I mean, but I don't blame the technology, any more than I blame a telephone for when I get a bad, somebody calling me saying some stuff. So the 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 to me, that genie's out of the bottle, and the
Yep.
best thing we could do is try to regulate it. But that's what's so scary about now
Yeah.
is we got people that are doing just the opposite. They
Mhm.
want the misinformation out there, you
Mm.
know, and they want, and I'll tell you that I've been just sort of writing about this lately. This whole consolidation of media,
Yeah.
you
Yep.
know, when you see a person, Barry Weiss, off of this platform,
Yeah.
and her company was worth, I mean, if you just did the math, her
Yeah.
company might have been worth half of what they paid for it. But it
Yeah.
was, so that tells you it wasn't about the value of the company. There's something else going on. They
Exactly.
wanted to get that kind of a message embedded in one of our most storied and reliable sources of information, which is CBS.
Exactly.
You
And
think about it.
it's very scary. I think it's very scary. I studied media actually in the 90s, and I remember my professor biggest thing that we talked about this for years and years and years, every assignment, and it was about this consolidation and concentration of the media. And basically, there's a direct correlation between that and basically the fall of democracy or freedom of speech.
Mhm.
And and it's so interesting. Well, I don't know if it's interesting. It's alarming that we find ourselves at this crossroads where, I speak to you on Substack, and honestly, you might think that I'm weird, but almost every single day I wake up and I actually, and I pray. But one of the things that I pray for is that Substack sort of doesn't fall into into bad hands. Even though I think the people that are behind it are pretty right, to the right. I'm just hoping that we still have this platform to still be able to have these discussions. I am so worried that we get to a point where we can't even do this type of thing anymore. And then I wonder what happens then. Where do we have these conversations? Right now, we're still being given this freedom to do this, for you and I to have this conversation, to
Mhm.
government to do this. And I wonder, is there a day when they're just going to shut the lights off and Substack, like Rebecca and Marlon and Arturo and Walter just no longer can actually, you know,
I will give you some hope.
like,
I'm actually working on an article about that very thing.
mm,
And um so my view, and I saw something Robin just said that I want to sort of weave into this.
yeah,
So Substack, at the end of the day, it's about the money.
yeah, uh-huh,
And right now, people like us,
yeah,
and on, and I mean ideologically,
yeah,
are driving Substack's revenue right now, and I mean, it's obvious.
yeah,
Not only people on the left, but a lot of what is, um, Substack this summer raised $100 million on a $1.2 billion valuation.
wow, yeah,
Okay, so that is what this platform is perceived to be worth right now.
yeah,
We call them unicorns because you don't see them every day, right? Um, so the next logical step for this platform, not imminently, but a year or two from now, is one of two things. Either they will get bought by some big media entity,
uh-huh,
or they'll go public, through an IPO. One of those two things, that's next.
uh,
Because that is how people like Mark Andreessen, who, when you talk about far right, that's about as crazy as it gets. He's been an investor in Substack from the beginning.
exactly, yeah,
And
it,
so he's probably got about $200 million, wound up in Substack. And he's
uh,
not the only venture capitalist, but he also was a personal direct investor in the Free Press, Barry Weiss's
wow,
entity.
uh,
And so I'm sorry, Robin said Weiss will be irrelevant. I have to disagree because um, she may not succeed, but I don't think she'll be irrelevant because of where they placed her. She
exactly,
is literally over CBS News.
exactly,
And she reports, if I'm not mistaken, not to the president of CBS, she reports to the guy at the top,
yeah, exactly,
right?
yeah,
So I don't think I pray that Robin is right,
yeah,
but what they have done is they have taken a person with no broadcast news experience whatsoever. Yeah, she worked at the New York Times, but she wasn't a reporter. She
exactly,
was an opinion journalist.
yeah,
So she doesn't really know from experience. That's what always gets me about these folks when they want to talk about DEI and
yeah,
merit. You
yeah,
know.
yeah,
Anyway, don't get me started. I'll preach a sermon on this kind of stuff. It
yeah.
really is under my skin.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right. I think what they are doing is to put in, and this is something that the first administration didn't do. It
You mean
was
the first Trump administration?
administration.
Yeah.
What this one is that they're placing their people everywhere in every single corner. And as you said, there's a reason that they're doing that. So Barry Weiss is part of a bigger plan.
And
And
she's not an unintelligent person
no, she's not.
now,
But
but
part of
folks. I would just say this, not to interrupt, but what we've got to do,
Mhm.
and I say we as people who disagree with that ideology.
Yeah.
So she built a significant media company on this platform.
Mhm. Yeah.
Today, there we are scattered. There's you, there's me, there's Egberto,
Yeah.
Arturo, and
Mm.
what we've got to do is we've got to. So, how was she able to do that? Substack gave her the tools to do it.
Yep.
They invested in her directly. They
Yep.
propped her up
Mm.
so that and we're talking about money,
Mm.
resources that
Yep.
we would not receive. We haven't received them.
Yep.
So, and I'm not trying, well, yeah, I am. I'm trying to be radical about this. What
We have
we have to do
yeah.
is okay, Substack is not going to help us.
Yeah.
But where are the billionaire progressive people that
Yeah.
I keep hearing about? Where are these good billionaires I keep hearing about?
Yeah.
We
Mark
could
Cuban.
do this. We could do this. You've got a great newsletter and
Mhm.
it's you cover a certain thing. I do what I do. And there
Exactly.
are I could pick 10 folks right now and we
Mm.
could if we had the money
Yep.
and I'm not saying who how about Reed Hoffman
Yeah. Reid
that
Hoffman.
that at LinkedIn. How
Yep.
about I mean, I'm just saying, just,
Yeah. Mhm.
so if you don't even need a billionaire, really.
You don't. You
You
don't.
really don't.
I've said
Now, in lieu
I've
of billionaires,
yeah.
paid subscribers certainly help.
Yeah.
And, I have sort of gotten, I've pissed some folks off by saying this, but what I notice is just a gravitation to pay money to people who really don't need their money. I
Exactly.
mean, why in the world when you can see the people on the bulwark on TV any given day and
Yeah.
they're charging like $100 a year for a paid subscription.
Mm.
I don't
Mhm.
know what secret stuff they're telling you for that, but I'm just saying maybe help Zurich
Yeah.
Stevens out.
Yeah.
Maybe support the journeyman. So and others. I'm just saying there's a whole lot of talent on this platform that is
Yeah.
just struggling along. That
Yeah.
if it were able to consolidate into a true media outfit,
Yeah.
um, what could it be worth?
Exactly. So, I so agree with you on this. And there's one thing that's been happening, and you probably go through this. You write an article that people just disagree with and don't like, and then you lose subscribers. You lose paid subscribers. So it,
Nobody disagrees with me. What are you talking about?
so it takes it takes a lot of courage
I do know what you mean.
while you're losing subscribers to just keep on writing and speaking your. I think a number of people, when they start losing subscribers, begin to auto censor themselves. So
Mm.
don't write stuff that makes people angry. But
How long have you been on Substack?
I've been in Substack for what, 2.5 years
So
almost.
you used to be on Medium, right?
Up many, many
Because that's
years.
where I first ran across you. I used to follow you on Medium, but
Yeah.
you had it was a different name of your. But you didn't, those weren't really newsletters. You just writing, we were all just writing random stuff.
Mhm.
And so the reason I asked that is I have been on Substack for over 5 years. So
Mhm.
before they had notes, it was just you're emailing news, stuff out. And
Yeah.
that is where I got the most of what you're talking about because my email list was basically everybody I worked with on Wall Street, people I knew from,
Mhm.
other things that I had done. And I didn't think I was being all that radical.
Yeah.
Boy, did and
Yeah.
the blowback that I would get from people that I thought I knew
Yeah.
was incredible.
It's crazy.
But I just had to, you just have to weather that storm. I mean, so I don't know, maybe I had an email list of 1,000 people
Yeah.
and boy, it dropped off. It was fine as long as I was talking about economic stuff.
Yeah.
The second I started talking about race,
Yeah.
oh my God, it just But over time, because I couldn't stop being who I am, right? Over
Yeah.
time, you know that you just weed those people out because I don't really want you getting my newsletter if you don't want it. And
Uh,
so, you know, they say you sort of build your own tribe, I guess, of
yeah.
people. Now I hardly ever get. I mean, I get on subscriptions, but it's because somebody got a gift and they didn't renew it, or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, so just hang in there, keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, I keep on doing what I'm doing, but I do think what the point that I'm trying to get to is on platforms like Substack, you're going to have people like us that are going to stop writing or auto censor
Mm,
themselves. Happens
yeah.
with type of subscription model is that at the end of the day, the voices you're going to have lesser strong voices because people still need to put food. And so this,
Yeah, I do understand what you mean. I
yeah,
there
both,
there are a couple of things that are in my drafts that I'm just like, boy, whenever I put this out there, I don't know. But
yeah,
something, just to your point, Zuri, what I'm trying to do now is, like I said, I've been on Substack for a minute,
yeah,
and subscription model is fine, but I'm about to, I mean, I have a YouTube channel,
yeah,
but I'm going to start to nurture that a little bit more.
mm,
Like people like, Wajahat Ali and
yeah,
Danielle Moody,
yeah,
um, because that side of the fence, if a person wants to give you $10,
yeah,
just a one off, they can do it. If
exactly.
there's some rules behind it. I haven't started it, but I really want to upgrade, and also just the sort of stuff you can do on YouTube, like if we're talking about I don't know, some news event, but we can't really show the audience, the story, or we can't really do any video graphic stuff that you
Yeah,
can do on YouTube. There's a cost to it, but that's kind of what I'm looking at now, just to and another thing you can do on YouTube is you can simulcast. So I can do the show on YouTube and simulcast it here and on
mm,
LinkedIn and on
okay,
Facebook,
pretty
and you
good.
just get a little bit more reach. And because
Mm,
there are a lot of people that may like your message, but they're not going to download notes. They don't need another app, right?
uh,
And so that's kind of something I think we all should be thinking about, just in
I,
case, who knows what might happen on these things.
yeah, I think we should be thinking about, but I think what I really like is your idea about coming together because right now, we are, we're still collaborating and doing these lives together. Is I think that we would be stronger, as Nelson Mandela's, famous quote, if
Mm.
you move, yes, go alone, but if you want to move faster, you have to sort of move together. So I think the idea of getting a Reid Hoffman or a Mark Cuban or a Melinda Gates or somebody or Mackenzie Scott,
I was just gonna say, yeah. I mean, because
or,
honestly, one of the most ironic things about this platform
yeah,
is the revenue is being driven by people on. I'm telling you, what's happened over since the election, there has been a dramatic transference of people leaving traditional media, specifically left leaning. Like
yeah,
if you look at the MSNBC, CNN, their numbers are dropping through the floor. And a lot of those people have gone, Twitter, gone to
yeah,
Blue Sky. Those cable platforms, they're here because Joy Reid's here,
yep,
Jim
exactly.
Acosta's here, and all these other folks, right? Believe this, Substack's paid subscribers, they get
Mm,
10% off the top, right?
wow,
Went from, I think it was from 2 million to 3 million. It was 3
wow,
million in February.
wow,
It's 5 million now.
that's
And
incredible.
look, think about it. From February to now, what happened? Trump. And all these progressives and moderate Republicans, whatever,
Yeah.
and you can almost measure it. Look at your followers and notice, I bet there's a spike, you
Mm.
know? And
There's a spike
I'm
in,
I'm telling you. I'm
um,
sorry.
there's a spike in free subscribers, but
Mhm. But
but
not paid.
Yeah.
And
It
that's the problem.
yeah.
I have a tremendous spike in just overall subscribers, but it's not reflected in paid subscribers because most of my subscribers also subscribe to those people that I mentioned, right?
Ex
And that's who they're paying. And
yeah.
those people don't need the money as much. And so that is why I'm trying to branch out to other ways of earning revenue because, and look, I love Substack. I love the way it works. It's been great. But
Uh,
I think I have a little over 14,000 subscribers. I think less than 3% are paid subscribers. And, I don't want to make this stuff like I'm working in Washington where I'm on the phone every day trying to raise money. I mean, that's not, I'm in it. Hey, folks got bills. I mean, we all have to eat, but I would much rather spend my time writing about and talking about the things that are important than begging people to please please pay us,
yeah.
So, when you just circling back, Mark Cuban,
Yeah.
this is a rounding error for him
Yeah.
to fund a group of us. It's a rounding error. So that's something maybe we need to talk about offline and figure this out, right?
We have to find ways to figure it out. I've worked in programs. I built like access to health programs in Africa. I think the biggest sort of of course, the Gates Foundation put a ton of money into building these programs. And you're right, it's a rounding error for these people.
Yeah.
So you sit there and say that you support freedom of expression and democracy, then your actions speak louder than words. And if you have that money, then yeah, support it, really support it. Because I will say to you, I don't need $1 million a month. I really don't. I just need to cover my health insurance and to put food on the
There
table.
you
So when
go.
or
So I
you
will tell you something. I don't know if you use Chat GPT. I was kind of late because I just was like, I ain't using no AI. But I guess a couple of months ago, I was, my wife and I have a little side business, and I was doing some financial projections, and I got on Excel, and I hadn't used it in a while, and I'm like, dang, wonder if Chat GPT can help me with this. And so, anyway, now I use it all the time. I
okay.
pay for it because I
Uh,
don't want my information shared. The free version will share, it'll
yeah.
train the algorithm or the AI engine and I want my data to be private. So I bring that up. Pardon me. I bring that up because put your numbers, your newsletter
Yeah.
into Chat GPT and ask it what your newsletter is worth to an
Oh,
investor. I
okay.
did that the other day and I said, "Hey, I got here's how many subscribers I had this time last year. Here's how many I got now. Here's how many paid subscribers I have. And
Yeah.
here's the so based on the information I gave it, I said, "Look, what if I wanted to, find an investor? How much is this newsletter worth considering that Barry Weiss just got $150 million for
Yeah.
her?"
Yeah.
I was shocked at some of the numbers that it gave me. I won't say what they were. And it wasn't like $1 million. I didn't expect that, but it made a strong case. It said, well, an investor that was interested in a growth model
Yeah.
would be interested in your newsletter,
Okay.
perhaps. And it gave me examples of other newsletters that have been bought. Like if you ever seen Money with Katie,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
she got bought. I think it was Morning Brew, which
Okay.
also is one of these, and she had a blog
Yeah.
and
Right.
she's on Substack now, and I like her stuff. But I'm
Yeah.
just saying, these are things that are going on around us that we're not necessarily thinking about, and maybe we should be.
We really should. I am very much for I still think that we can't go this alone. I'm
No,
convinced by each having our separate newsletters, we're actually diluting actually.
yes,
And if we all had this one newsletter where we had you talking about the money matters, Walter talking about something else, you know what I mean? And all coming together with a value proposition. I think that just makes us a lot stronger.
I'm working on it. I'm working on it because I just was like, okay, wait a minute.
Uh-huh.
Because that's essentially what Barry Weiss did. She went and got a bunch of folks, and they're not even all that great. I mean, no shade, but I
Yeah.
just am like, I mean, a lot of them are really people that on their own wouldn't have necessarily been that great, but under that umbrella
Yeah.
and with a billionaire throwing money at you, and with these different tools, I mean, it's out there.
It's out there. It's out there. Okay. I think we've
See what
come
we started.
yeah, we've come to the end of our conversation, Marlon. And it's been really excited to have this conversation with you.
Oh, I
I
know. I'm sorry I was late.
Oh, no worries about no worries at all. I'm just so happy to have this conversation, to be able to exchange ideas, interact. And I think that's what makes us human, that
Yes.
that's what makes us enduring, and that's what makes people listen to us. And this is what I still want us to keep in the world, interaction and chatting. Of course, I'd love to sit down and have a coffee and several coffees and tea, but the fact that we're having this conversation, that we have 84 people now on the call. We started with about 22. I think that really talks to how important these conversations are, how we need to keep on having these different conversations. I didn't want to focus too much on race because I write so much about race, and I just want other type of conversation, which I think we did really well on, talking about our kids, talking about our fears, talking about so many different things in Substack. So I just really wanted to thank you very much, Marlon. It's been great, and I think that the
Hey,
rest of
thank you for inviting me. I
oh,
always enjoy talking to you.
it always we need to do more of these.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, and have a really good end to your day.
You too. Take care.
Take care. Bye, Marlon. Bye, everybody, and thanks for joining.
Bye.
Oh, Robin, thank you so much, Robin. Really like that. Bye.